Okay, in this video, we're going to start from the beginning of the notes on 7.5, applying the tangent ratio. Okay, so we talked about in class that your calculator has to be on degree mode. So that means you've got to go into mode if you have a TI-84, and you're going to check your degree should be highlighted and not your radian. If you have those other calculators, look for the little baby D in your screen, and you should be able, I think the default is degree for you, so I think you should be okay. If in doubt, come see me and I'll fix it for you. Okay, so if they talk about a trig ratio, it's the ratio of two lengths of a side of a right triangle. Remember, whenever we do this right angle trig, which is what 7.5, 7.6, and 7.7 is all about, you're going to be using right angle trig, and we do something called SOHCAHTOA, and I will go over that in just a second. For this section, we're only going to focus on the TOA, and I'll explain that in a sec. Okay, in a right triangle, if you do a ratio of two lengths of the sides, remember this is a side and this is a side. This is not considered a side. This is a hypotenuse. No matter what, it's always going to be that. It's always going to be your hypotenuse, okay? It never changes names. It's never called a side. Okay, these two angles right here, the blue dot and the, let me just change the color, and the green dot, these two angles are complementary. And we remember from a long time ago that complementary sum, that's your symbol for sum, to 90 degrees. So those two angles, the blue dot and the green dot, they are the acute, which means less than 90 degrees, angles in a right triangle. And these angles are going to be our focus. So when we do SOHCAHTOA, we ignore that 90-degree angle. We never use it. Okay, things that you need to know. Remember these abbreviations. The word is tangent, but it's abbreviated tan, and on your screen, on your calculator, it says tan. It does not say tangent. Okay, opposite is abbreviated OPP, and adjacent is abbreviated ADG. So, if you're dealing with angle A, so look at this little figure, opposite is here across the pond. Adjacent is touching it by a side not called a hypotenuse, okay? So if you want to figure out the tan of angle A, tan is the length of the leg opposite angle A over the length of the leg adjacent to angle A. So it ends up being BC, which is right here, over AC. And we'll do more with this down below. Okay, tangent. Tangent is the ratio of the sides in a right triangle, and it's going to be constant for a given angle measure. We enter it into our calculator as tan, okay, tan, and then you put in your ratio. Once again, the calculator mode should be in degrees, and if you want it rounded to one decimal place, you're going to have your mode, the float will be equal to 1. That means you want 1 decimal place. So for example, the possible answer would be 30.1 degrees. That's 1 decimal place. The inverse of the trig ratio gives us the angle, and we entered into our calculator as tan -1. So for TI-84s, you would say second tan, and you would see tan -1 in your calculator. Okay, find the tangent ratios. I'm going to turn to blue, and I'm going to find everything with S as it pertains to the blue. So opposite S, this will be your opposite. This is touching. That's your adjacent. So the tan ratio, the tan of angle S equals opposite, which is 80, over 18. That is your ratio. If you want the angle, you would say S equals, and this is angle S, tan raised to the -1 of the exact same ratio, and that's going to give you angle S, and angle S will be equal to 77.3 degrees. Okay, so you should check to make sure you can get that. Okay, now there's a second acute angle. I'm going to change to green. I mean, I'll change to red. We changed to red. I want to deal with the tan of angle R. So from angle R's perspective, across the pond is going to be the opposite. Next to it is going to be the adjacent. Okay, this across from the right angle is always the hypotenuse, and we're not using that for tan because tan is opposite over adjacent, and there's no hypotenuse. So the tan of angle R equals the following ratio: opposite over adjacent. To get angle R, you are always going to take inverse trig. And you will get an angle that is 12.7 degrees. Now look, if you take angle S plus, and I'll change my color, angle R, that's going to equal 90 degrees because they are complementary. They're the acute angles in a right triangle. So let's try this. Angle S, we knew was 77.3 degrees, plus, what's angle R? Angle R was 12.7, and if you add those two numbers together, you get 90. Let's just prove that. Okay, so 77.3 plus 12.7. 7 and 3 are 10, put down the 0, carry the 1. 7, 8, 9, 10, put down the 0, carry the 1. 7, 8, 9, bingo. 90 degrees, those are both the correct angles. So again, your mode equals degrees, and I want your float to equal 1, which means 1 decimal point. Okay, we're going to continue. Now, most of you have already gotten this information, but I'm just going to repeat it for you. Okay, find the value of the side represented as x, round to the nearest tenth. That means your float equals 1. Your mode is in degrees. I just told you about float again. Look at the size of the triangle from the 32-degree angle's perspective. This is opposite. This is adjacent because this is hypotenuse. Okay, so the tan of 32 degrees equals 11 over x. Put tan 32 over 1 and do your cross products. X times the tan of 32, look what I'm going to do with my parens, equals 11 times 1. I want to isolate my x, divide by tan 32, that cancels. Do the same thing over here. This goes in your calculator. Once you do your angle, close your parentheses. What you should be getting is x equals 17.6 degrees, and we did, excuse me, not degrees. I'm so sorry. 17.6 because it's just the side length. I don't have any units. I don't write any units with it. I am done. We did this in class. 17.6. Then we also did this where we talked about what is the height of my lamppost. So we're going to look at this. Here's my angle. From this angle's perspective, put yourself right here. Look across. That is your opposite. Across from the 90-degree angle is your hypotenuse. You don't need that because we're going to deal with tan, and tan of an angle equals opposite over adjacent, and this, the touching piece, is the adjacent. So the tan of 70 degrees equals h over 40. Put this over 1. Fraction equals fraction. We're going to do our cross products. So h times 1 equals tan 70. Make sure you have this in parentheses. Times 40. If you do this operation in your calculator, you will get the h, which is the height, and you should be getting 109.9, and my units are inches. Okay, and we did this in class. Okay, then we had some extra practice. It says find the tan of D and the tan of F. Write each answer as a fraction, and then using, so this is the first thing, then using inverse trig, find the angle. This is the second thing. Okay, from angle D's perspective, the tan of D is opposite over adjacent. This is your hypotenuse. It is not involved with tan. The tan of D equals opposite, which is 60, over adjacent, which is 45, and this is my ratio, and we are done. Then you want to get the angle. You're going to use inverse trig. You're going to use second tan of 60 over 45, and you should be getting an angle of 53.1 degrees. Okay, so this angle D is 53.1 degrees. I'm going to change to red now, and we're going to deal with angle F. From angle F's perspective, this is the opposite, and this is the adjacent. The hypotenuse does not change. It is always going to be across from the 90-degree angle. So I'm going to put a line right here, and I'm going to say, okay, let's do the red. I want the tan of F as a ratio. It is opposite over adjacent. Notice it's the inverse of the ratio of tan D. Now let's get angle F. Angle F equals tan to the negative of 45 over 60. And you should be getting an angle of 36.9 degrees. Now, what you should be able to do is the following. See if you're correct. Add the angle of 53.1 to the angle of 36.9, and when you do that math, that's a 0, put down your decimal, 9, 10, carry the 1, that's a 0, carry the 1, that's 90 degrees, and that makes sense because those two acute angles are complements of each other. They sum to 90. Okay, so we did this all in class. Okay, now we're coming into material that we have not covered that you're going to do on this video. Okay, so let's see what we have. It says find the value of x. We're only going to do tan. I'm going to go in brown this time. Here's my angle. From this angle's perspective, this is opposite, this is adjacent, this is always hypotenuse. It says find the value of x and round to the nearest tenth. So your mode is degrees, and you should be having your float on 1 if you have a TI-84. Okay, so I'm going to say the tan of 17 degrees equals 9 opposite over adjacent. Put this over 1. X times the tan of 17 degrees equals 9 times 1, which is 9. My goal is to get x by itself, divide both sides by the tan of 17 degrees. And by doing that, I get x equals 29.4. Okay, it's not a degree, it's a length, and I'm done. Then it says, now find the value of the missing angle using the fact that the acute angles are complementary. Okay, what's missing? Let's label this. Let's label this ABC. Let's find angle C. Angle B. Okay, well, let's find angle C. That's 90 degrees. I know angle A is 17 degrees. What's angle B? Angle B is going to be 90 minus 17 degrees, which is 60.6 degrees, because these two angles are complementary. They are the acute angles of the right triangle. Okay? Okay, let's keep going. Find the value of x. X is a side. I've been given this angle. I can only deal with tan. Remember, tan is opposite over adjacent. So the tan of 61 degrees equals 22 over x. Put this over 1. I have x times the tan of 61 equals 22. Isolate your x. Divide by tan 61, and you should be getting x equals 12.2. That's a side length. There's no units required. Okay, so this was 12.2, and that's what I just solved for. Okay, let's do the next one. Excuse me, here's your angle. This is opposite. That is adjacent. The tan of 56 equals opposite over adjacent. One-step problem. 13 times the tan of 56. Remember to close those parentheses. That's going to equal x. That goes in your calculator, and x is 19.3. Again, it is a unit measurement. It is not an angle. So therefore, there are no degrees on it. It's just a plain old number. Then it says right here, now find the value of the missing angles in each triangle above using the fact that the acute angles are complementary. So number 3, 90 minus 61 in your calculator. 90 minus 61. 29 degrees. This angle right here, 29 degrees. Number 4. 90 minus 56. Your calculator. That's going to equal 34 degrees. This angle is 34 degrees. Okay? Keep going. Using inverse trig, whenever I see that, I am looking for an angle. Find the values of the acute angles. Remember, it's not the 90-degree angles in the triangle below. Okay, so I need to find angle A. I'm only tan of A equals opposite over adjacent. So tan of A equals 24 over 7. Now, I don't want tan of A, I want A. A equals tan to the negative 1 of that exact ratio. Angle A will equal 73.7 degrees. Okay, I can find angle B, so if this is 73.7, 90 minus 73.7 degrees equals angle B. And angle B is going to be 16.3 degrees. 16.3 degrees. Okay, that's that first problem. Let's look at number 6. Okay, let's try to find angle B. The tan of angle B equals opposite, which is 12 over, not this way, that's the hypotenuse, right? So I need to go over 35 because that's the adjacent, because it touches the angle in question and it's not the hypotenuse. So that's my ratio, but I want the angle. So angle B equals tan to the negative 1 of 12 over 35. That goes in your calculator, and you should be getting 18.9 degrees. So angle B is 18.9 degrees. Angle A is its complement. 90 minus 18.9 degrees should give you 71.1 degrees, and we are good. Okay, now this is considered the homework. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the first part of the homework. Okay, I'm going to do here, you're going to actually submit this as your homework, assuming that you've listened to how I've done this. You're also going to include with this the rest of the homework. So here's your homework. Page 5 and page 6. So this I'm going to say, do on your, okay? I'm going to do this with you so you have a model. It says find each angle. You're going to use inverse trig to find the angle. You need to find angle X. This is opposite. This is adjacent. So the tan of angle X equals 16 over 12. X equals tan to the negative 1 of 16 over 12. So X should be 53.1 degrees. Don't just copy this, make sure you can get it. Okay, here's angle X. Look how I'm labeling. This is opposite, this is adjacent, because this is hypotenuse. And for tan, we use opposite over adjacent only. Okay, tan of angle X equals 20 over 21. So angle X itself, you've got to use inverse trig to get my angles, and angle X should be 43.6%. Okay, and you can stop the video and go back, okay? There's no need to go at the pace at which I am going. Angle A. Notice how I'm labeling things. This is opposite. This is adjacent. This is hypotenuse. Tan is opposite over adjacent. So the tan of angle A equals 40 over 30. I don't want the tan of angle A. I want the angle. So the angle itself is tan to the negative 1 of 40 over 30. Notice I'm rounding everything to the nearest tenth. That means my float is on 1, and I get 53.1. Okay, tan of Z. This is opposite. This is adjacent. This is hypotenuse. So the tan of angle Z equals 12 over 16. So angle Z itself is tan to the negative 1 of 12 over 16, and angle Z should be 36.9 degrees. Okay, we've got two more. Tan of angle A. This is opposite. Touching it is adjacent. And across from the right angle is hypotenuse. We don't use hypotenuse for tan. So the tan of A, 16 over 30. A is going to equal what? You should be saying 28.1 degrees. Last one, here we go. Opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. Okay, the tan of C equals opposite over adjacent. So C, to get the angle, you always, forever and ever, use inverse. And angle C should be 73.7 degrees. Okay, so your job is to do, they want the missing side. Okay, so you're not going to use inverse. And you have 6 problems. You can do it. Get the missing side by using tan of the given angle. So use tan of 36, tan of 56. This is going to be 36 degrees, 56 degrees, 66 degrees, and this will be 26 degrees. Okay, then 72 degrees, which pertains to this angle down here, and 64 degrees. So when they want tan, when you're going to use tan, you're going to solve for the missing side and round to the nearest tenth. That means float equals 1. I'm going to do the first one. Tan of 36 equals opposite over adjacent. Opposite is 19. Adjacent is x. Put it over 1. Cross products. 19 times 1 is 19. My goal is to get x by itself. Notice I am not using inverse. I am not looking for an angle. 19 divided by x, and then you end up doing 19 divided by tan of 36 to isolate your x. You should be getting x is 26.2. Okay, follow that model and solve 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So post this page for your homework. Okay, thank you for listening.